Pakistan is in big trouble. For lack of a better term, matters in the country are a hot mess right now. About 7 months ago, I made a video detailing the severity of the Pakistan crisis. I talked about how they got into a bind and what it would take to resolve it. I'll link the video in the description for those who want to watch it. Since then, however, the situation in Pakistan seems to have just gotten worse. And now, the nation is on the brink of a civil war. You might think of this as a them problem, but the situation in Pakistan has global ramifications. Pakistan is a nuclear-armed nation that is home to over 230 million citizens. Domestic as their affairs may be, the collapse of Pakistan would not only drag Asia, but the entire world with it. Let's dive into what exactly is troubling the nation and what could happen if Pakistan's woes are ignored. A quick interlude. Look, I hate to be a prophet of doom, but someone's got to report the uglier side of the news to show that the world is not always sunshine and rainbows. You can help validate my efforts in pursuit of enlightenment by liking this video to increase our reach on YouTube. Videos like these, well, they tend not to do so well, so maybe your likes can change that. Alright, back to the video. The way I see it, Pakistan's problems come in two forms. There are the economic woes that are threatening to collapse the nation, and then there are the political woes that threaten civil war. I'll break this video into those two sections so we better understand each one of them and how they feed into each other in order to create this hot mess that we have on our hands. To say Pakistan is dealing with an economic crisis is no longer adequate to describe the depth of the scenario. The better word is collapse. Pakistan is facing a complete economic collapse. Whatever problems you have heard of, Pakistan is probably going through them. From back-breaking inflation, a depreciating currency, and precariously low foreign reserves, Pakistan has got it all. Let's dive deeper, shall we? To start with, Pakistan is experiencing what is called a balance of payments crisis. In short, the country has been spending more on trade than it has brought in, and this has the obvious effects of depleting its foreign currency reserves faster than it can fill them. For a nation like Pakistan, this is not good at all. Pakistan is very reliant on imports, with net imports far exceeding its exports, so this means that the nation is always buying. For them to have low foreign currency reserves means that they have a low buying capacity on the international market. At one point this year, it was estimated that they only had 3 weeks' worth of money left for imports. This came after the reserves had reached an 8-year low. To add to their misfortune, in the last year, the US dollar has rallied in strength. This is good for the US, but for countries that import heavily, like Pakistan, it means that there's more financial pressure as they need more money to buy the US dollar, the currency in which they use for transactions on the global market. Add a powerful dollar and already sky-high global prices due to Russia's war in Ukraine, and you have a disaster. But that's not the only challenge that comes with having a shortage of foreign currency. This shortage presents several problems for the nation. On one hand, it forces them to start borrowing more to keep up with imports. I've already mentioned in previous videos how unfavorable the loans Pakistan gets from China are. The interest rates are high, the payback periods are low, and the collateral risk is not balanced. Them needing more money means leveraging more of Pakistan's tomorrow to pay for today's mistakes. At present, China already owns 30% of Pakistan's foreign debt. Adding to the unfavorable terms of that debt, this is a bomb waiting to explode. Also, because the nation still needs to function, the already low foreign currency reserves keep getting depleted. In addition, the government's artificial props to keep the rupee strong have the unfortunate impact of weighing on the rupee's value. So what are we left with? Higher debt, pressure to repay debt, an ever-increasing cost of importing goods, and a weak currency. Can you see now how bad this has become? But just hold on. it gets worse.
A country on the brink of disaster.
Pakistan's economic collapse.
Inflation in Pakistan touched a 60-year high.
Prices of basic commodities have been doubled.
Food has become unaffordable for millions.
Pakistan is going through its worst economic crisis
Since March 1965.
Growing, based on all of the issues listed above, inflation has had perfect room to grow. In February of this year, inflation surged to 31.5%, its highest level since 1974, according to the latest figures released by the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics on March 1st. This has left the country of over 230 million citizens in quite a conundrum. You see, prices of goods domestically are increasing. Everything from basic goods to essential commodities is more expensive now than they've been in a long time. When you couple that with the fact that money is losing value, well, it's a disaster. Pakistanis are starving, and the average person is barely staying afloat. Fathers are struggling to make enough, and mothers can barely ration what little they have. All this is because the country's economic policies are in shambles. The government has run out of options, and for the time being has been grasping to find whatever it can get in loans in a bid to ease their troubles. The most open channel for that has been the International Monetary Fund. Pakistan's government has been holding talks to resume a $6.5 billion loan program that has been essentially suspended since last November. The IMF has put forward a set of demands for the release of a $1.1 billion installment that includes the liberalization of the exchange rate, the removal of subsidies in various sectors, and the raising of taxes. I will mention why this is important when we cover the political sphere of Pakistan in just a minute. Pakistan is desperate, and they have been agreeing to all of the IMF's requirements. I cannot overemphasize just how desperate the nation is right now. Also, because of the issues with foreign currency, economic activity has dropped massively in the nation, heavily affecting all the major companies. This has had a trickle-down effect on the citizens, sending already struggling people into economic oblivion. Several of the nation's biggest companies have halted operations as they ran out of raw materials or foreign exchange, which has compounded the troubles of the economy. Heavyweight companies like Suzuki, Gandhara Tire and Rubber Company, GSK PLC's Pakistan unit, Ingro Fertilizers Limited, Amreli Steels Limited, Malat Tractors Limited, and Diamond Industries Limited have shut their factories indefinitely or suspended operations. Their statements all talk about the same thing. They are struggling with sourcing raw materials or have a shortage of cash. For luxury-oriented companies, it's a drop in demand. This has served to increase unemployment in the nation. Try having unemployed people who are starving in an economy that is getting worse and worse by the day. No wonder we're seeing more and more of this. Unfortunately, it's not just Pakistan. Things are unraveling for many countries around the world. While I am trying my best to cover all of the major geopolitical news stories, it's a very fast-moving environment when it comes to geopolitics. And that is why I launched my newsletter, where every week I send out major global news straight to your email inbox. You can sign up right now by clicking on the link in the description, and best of all, it's free.
Pakistani security forces
Trying to arrest
former Prime Minister
IMRAN Khan.
Protests erupted in major Pakistani cities as
Hundreds of
supporters of Khan clashed with police who then fired tear gas and water cannons at the crowd.
Were Pakistan united right now, we would say that the country will somehow bounce back fairly quickly. But the problem is that Pakistan is not united. Not even a little bit. The political turmoil in the nation is threatening to rip the country apart. Let's talk about how messy the political situation is. You know how the world debates the age-old question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, Pakistan has a similar question. What came first, the economic crisis or the political crisis? I won't dive into that today, but I will say this. Both crises have taken advantage of the presence of the other to bring Pakistan as a nation to the brink of collapse. But looking at the political situation in particular, well, the nation is in a mess. It looks like the nation is becoming more difficult to govern with each passing year. The root of the current political turmoil that the nation is facing right now is rooted in one name and one person: Imran Khan. Khan served as the 22nd Prime Minister of Pakistan from 2018 up until 2022. That is when he was forcibly removed from power through a no-confidence motion in the National Assembly. Khan claimed that it was a US-led conspiracy to eliminate him, and ever since then he has been staging mass rallies aimed at reinstalling himself as the Prime Minister. Typically in any other country, this would die down, but Khan commands a huge following, and he has very loyal supporters. This means that his rallies and criticism of the government have ears, and this is threatening to split the country in two. What has made it worse is that the protests have been met with severe police brutality. This has resulted in several deaths, injuries, and arrests as the months go on. In response, the protests have begun taking more militant forms, with protesters arming themselves with sticks. This is a very dangerous situation, as it is a few steps away from a military conflict. A few armed protesters and everything can go very, very wrong. We are looking at a country that can break into civil war any day now. And what heightens the protesters' beliefs is the assassination attempt that was made on Imran Khan's life. The gunman who made the attempt on the former Prime Minister's life at a rally last year in November wounded Khan, but Khan survived. This has made his message that much stronger and has given him a bit of a messiah complex. Were Khan to be taken out, it is almost guaranteed that civil war would break out. The only string that is keeping Pakistan from a military conflict is the fact that all the major political parties, despite their fierce differences, are invested in keeping the country intact. No one wants a war, but it is becoming increasingly harder to keep that option off the table. These political woes themselves have made the economic crisis worse. The frequent leadership changes have made it hard for Pakistan to have a long-term strategy. Instead, each government comes with measures that are short-term and will only serve to make the people happy in the here and now. With each new government, Pakistan is getting buried in more problems. As the economic problems heighten and the political struggles reach a boiling point, the future of Pakistan is very much in limbo. But that's not all. There's more. The last year hasn't really been kind to Pakistan. And in addition to bad economic policies, there have been unforeseen challenges as well. One of the chief incidents was that Pakistan was hit by floods. A lot of really bad floods.
In Pakistan,
Floods across much of the country have killed over 1,000 people and
affected the lives of more than 30 million people.
People need saving and there isn't much time.
There are now fears of acute food shortages.
Around 250,000 people at risk of drowning.
Many districts are still out of reach as roads and bridges are swept away.
Weeks of unrelenting monsoon rain have wreaked havoc on vital infrastructure.
Military helicopters carry out daily rescue operations.
Families who've lost their homes are sleeping on the roadside.
Shocked, shattered, and starving.
The floods were massive. They affected all 4 of the country's provinces and approximately 15% of the population. The floods were so bad that about 1/3 of Pakistan's landmass was covered in water, resulting in the displacement of millions of poor Pakistani citizens. In addition to the heavy loss of life and emotional burdens, these floods have left Pakistan in quite a pickle. The nation has a huge bill to foot for reconstruction and aid, and this has added to the strains on the government budget. A budget that was already struggling. According to the World Bank estimates, Pakistan needs at least $16 billion to somewhat handle the losses and damages incurred. Yeah, you heard that right. $16 billion. This is coming at a time when the entire nation's reserve fund is just $3 billion. It's a sad situation. To add to this natural disaster, the weakness in Pakistan's political and economic situation has resulted in third parties taking advantage of the nation. One of these third-party groups is terrorists. In the past few months, the nation has seen a resurgence of terrorism from radical Islamist groups, as well as ethnic militants in the resource-rich province of Baluchistan.
Wreaking havoc across Pakistan, is the Tehreek-e-Taliban, or the TTP.
Pakistan is on edge after the devastating Thursday attack.
The death toll in the suicide bombing at a mosque in the Pakistani city of Peshawar continues to rise.
Terrorists stormed a police compound in Pakistan's port city of Karachi yesterday, killing 3 security force members and 1 civilian.
Multiple explosions and firing were heard after unidentified armed men attacked a police station in the southern Pakistani city of Karachi.
Gunmen on the streets of Lahore, a brazen and deadly attack on a high-profile target.
The number of civilian and law enforcement casualties at the hands of the TTP have more than doubled.
The Pakistani Taliban, a horrendous branch of the Taliban that killed thousands of Pakistanis during the War on Terror, announced its return recently. I can't show you the video here because YouTube would just send a pack of rabid advertising executives to my home, but the Taliban had a member launch a horrific suicide attack that killed 101 congregates attending prayers at a mosque. Following the retreat from the US in the region, the war on terrorism has just become lopsided. Pakistan is on the short end of this, and as the attacks increase, it's looking more likely that Pakistan might share the instability that has long been felt by its neighbor, Afghanistan. The Pakistan Taliban has not relented, and several other terrorist activities have taken place, resulting in the individual death of several people. Unless Pakistan puts these activities to bed, and quickly, we might be looking at the beginning of a very big problem. The challenge is that Pakistan is facing all of these issues at once: natural disasters, terrorist resurgence, economic hardships, and political unrest. When all of these issues manifest simultaneously, it's easy to see and understand why Pakistan is on its last legs. It is painfully clear that if something does not give up soon, the next few months might result in a crisis for Asia and for the entire world as Pakistan collapses. There is hope, though, given that the IMF is willing to loan money to Pakistan, and also elections are coming up this year. The hope is that Pakistan finds its peace with the convergence of these events, or else the world will watch as crisis after crisis accelerates the fall of a great nation.